We got chased out of the park by the park ranger there at about 7:30. So we tried to squeeze in some nightscape shots. I hope something comes out of it. If you're watching this, maybe something did. Hey, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video where we're going to talk about tips and tricks and things to consider to turn any trip that you take into a photography trip. Doesn't that sound fun? Tonight, we are working on the last of the winter Milky Way with our ultimate portable astrophotography setup. Please subscribe today so you see this future video and all future content to come. We fly a drone for the first time. So stay tuned all the way to the end to see how this personal trip turned into a photography trip turned out. Thanks so much. We're down here in Spartanburg. We're down here for a coin show, but we're going to see if we can work out a photographic composition this evening. We've had a lot of rain in the east. Not sure what the lake levels are for tonight, so that's what we're going to check out. This is the Upstate Coin Show in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I was volunteering for the Liberty Seated Collectors Club. I specialize in half dollars, and let's get out to the lake for photography. Hey, we're going to try to fly a drone. I hope this works. It worked. Okay, here's where the evening gets a little bit dicey. They have some gates that could be locked, so we're hoping somebody scans this area before they lock the gates. I just need a few minutes of darkness to get the composition I'm looking for. So one thing I was really surprised about is the lake level. As you may or may not know, the southeast has had a lot of rain. And I was really not sure how high this lake might be, but as you can see, it's really at what looks to be normal levels, or they may have taken it down to winter pool and maybe that's been able to absorb the rain. That may be why it looks like it's probably up at summer pool right now. So there were quite a few people out here fishing earlier, and we're hoping to be able to be here for a few minutes of darkness. We got chased out of the park by the park ranger there at about 7:30. So we tried to squeeze in some nightscape shots. I hope something comes out of it. If you're watching this, maybe something did. So there's a technique that I use to visualize a location before I even get there. I'm heading to Spartanburg, South Carolina. Let's start off by going up here to the search bar and keying in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And Google Earth Pro will zoom us right to Spartanburg. Hyperdrive. Now, since I'm doing a nightscape, one of my priorities is to find a relatively dark sky. And I'm thinking of capturing Orion and the winter Milky Way, so I'm looking to the south. And as you can see here, this area to the southeast seems to be pretty devoid of population. But right off the bat here, you can see that there's an area that really jumps out. When we start to zoom in, these are two lakes. One is called Croft Lake, it's a state park, and the other is Lake Johnson. Lake Johnson's a municipal park. So I originally thought of Croft Lake. Of course, you have to worry about hours of operation and access and also sky visibility. And I started to look at Croft Lake and I just did not see a good horizon, especially to the south. Then looking at Lake Johnson, this really jumped out at me. This area here, it's wide open, looking directly south, southeast, and so this really started to look like a potential location. Now here's the power of Google Earth Pro. I'm looking for a foreground. Is there an object? Is there a tree? Is there a forest? Is there something I can include in the composition to add a little bit more interest? So this pier jumps out at me, and so I think, well, that might be something I can include in the composition. So when you double click and go to Street View, or Ground View in this case, look at that. Is that not beautiful? Here we have a pretty nice depiction of what the actual three-dimension scene would look like. Now we go up here to the Show Sunlight Across Landscape. We click on that. And in this case, it takes us to the exact time it is right now, which is 9:36. If you go to the slider and you start to move it backwards, right around sunset, look at that. And say, well, can I start to capture the Orion constellation and the winter Milky Way looking south? And by golly, by about 7:45, it's a really nice composition with that pier. And that's without ever going to the location. This is a beautiful, powerful tool. I encourage you to use it. I find it indispensable for scouting a location I've never been to before and finding a location that might be of interest. Once on site at Lake Johnson, I utilized two apps that help with augmented reality and further clarifying the visualization. The one on the left is Sky Safari Pro, which really does a nice job of showing the constellations, and the one on the right is Photo Pills, showing the Milky Way in the winter. Okay, so that's how our personal trip turned into a photography trip. The compositions were somewhat compromised by the hours of the park and getting run out by the park ranger. Actually, that vertical composition, that light painting, was done by his red flashing lights that he turned on to make sure that I understood that the park was closing. So it was still a great park to visit. I would do it again. I was just taking a chance that the gates weren't there and that they wouldn't actually close the park when they said, but that's why I went ahead and started photographing during twilight. So I really never got out of astronomical twilight. And so the images weren't exactly what I was looking for, but it's still a beautiful location and a great time and a great learning experience. It always is. And the first time in flying a drone and capturing some decent footage. So it was all a great trip. I thank you for joining me. I encourage you to turn every trip you take into a photography trip. And we look forward to seeing you in the community at earthandskyphoto.com and right here on the Earth and Sky channel. Thanks for joining us.